We're here at Lucid Motors in Casa Grande, Arizona. This is where they build their two vehicles, the Air sedan and the Gravity SUV. Lucid gets a lot of critical acclaim for their vehicles, but they do face a lot of challenges. Lucid Motors' 2021 IPO netted at $4.5 billion, the biggest SPAC merger to date. Production of its first car, a luxury EV sedan, started that year as well.
Lucid really had the top funding from the PIF. They had a brand new factory. They had Peter Rawlinson, who essentially did the Model S for Tesla. Hopes were really high for the company.
Many say that Lucid should be dominating the luxury EV segment. Its cars have chart-topping range, they're lightning quick, and have spacious, high-end cabins. They've received enough awards to warp a shelf.
They're kind of what everyone promised an EV would be.
But years of work since have failed to raise volumes above the levels of high-end exotics like Ferrari.
In their second year, they were targeting getting up to 20,000 units a year, and they still, after 5 years, still have not hit that 20,000 volume mark.
Last year, Lucid began deliveries of the Gravity, its new SUV that starts at $80,000, which Lucid is hoping will boost sales and help the automaker lay the groundwork to follow in Tesla's footsteps.
This year is very important for us because we have added the second vehicle, our first SUV, the Gravity, and we are ramping it up throughout the year.
It's a fantastic vehicle. It's the kind of vehicle that consumers, especially in that premium segment, are really leaning towards.
But here again, Lucid is struggling to boost production.
Gravity production really didn't start to ramp up until midsummer of this year. They did not have any meaningful number of deliveries, no more than a few hundred at most in the first half of the year.
Our rate of production right now has dramatically increased. We're confident that we are out of the woods.
We got an exclusive look at Lucid's Gravity production line.
There's thousands of parts that go together. An automobile is the most complicated consumer product that there is.
And got to try the car.
I suggest you hit the accelerator a little bit.
Whoa!
Like that. Okay.
Lucid loses money on every vehicle it sells, but it is already planning its next product, one aimed right at the best-selling segment. It could be what catapults it into the mainstream. But
it's hard to do that when you're still struggling to also build your existing products.
CNBC goes inside Lucid Motors to see whether it can overcome its challenges and bring the brand to the mass market. Lucid Motors got its start as a battery and powertrain technology company called Ativa back in 2007. It rebranded to Lucid Motors a decade later, and in 2019, the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia became its majority shareholder. Former Tesla VP and Chief Model S engineer Peter Rawlinson was Lucid's early CTO and then CEO.
Rawlinson's role was to essentially launch this vehicle and have it be the best all-electric vehicle on the market. His goal was to beat Tesla in efficiency, beat Tesla in range, and just overall technology.
And it seems as though it delivered on that. The company touts the vehicle as the world's most efficient electric car, with an industry-leading range of up to 512 miles on its Grand Touring model. Rawlinson stepped down as CEO earlier this year, and former COO Marc Winterhoff stepped in.
We have an enormous range. That's where we excel. Not only the Air, but also the Gravity.
While the Air received rave reviews, the company has struggled to sell it in large volumes.
The Air was their flagship product, but it was a sedan. That's limiting the market in general. And then it was an all-electric sedan, which limits its market potential even more so.
When I first saw it in 2016, people still wanted to buy sedans. By the time it finally arrived in the market 5 years later, the market had really shifted away from sedans towards utility vehicles. And as good a car as the Air is, it just wasn't what especially the US market was looking for at that point in time.
Last year, the company delivered 10,241 vehicles, the majority of which were Air sedans, a 71% increase from 2023. But the luxury sedan segment isn't big. For comparison, Tesla sold 12,426 Model S sedans in 2024. Mercedes sold 6,963 of its EQS sedan, and Porsche sold 4,747 of its Taycan.
The segment of the Lucid Air is not that big. So that's why the Gravity and also our midsize, that is then the next platform, is so important for us.
Is this where your demand is?
This is where our demand is.
Yeah, this is kind of where everyone's demand
Exactly.
is, huh?
With the Gravity, we have a much bigger segment and demand. While we're working on our next platform, where we even expect much higher numbers.
The company has said that they thought the Gravity could have 6x the total addressable market size as their sedans. Latest numbers I've seen show the Gravity matching the Air sales in 2026.
Lucid has invested significantly in building its own factory from the ground up in Casa Grande, Arizona. The first phase of the plant, which it used to launch the Air sedan, cost $700 million and was completed in 2020. It has since expanded it considerably to build its Gravity SUV and future vehicles. Last time CNBC was here, the building was about 1 million square feet. It's almost quadrupled since then. There's 700 robots across this facility and about 2,600 workers and growing. As it's currently designed, this factory could probably produce about 90,000 vehicles. This year, Lucid is going to produce 18,000, which is roughly double what they did the year before.
This is where the Lucid vehicles are born. Lucid is very highly vertically integrated. Not only do we do the engineering, but we also do the manufacturing, and we can control some of the Lucid secret sauce by doing it in-house. Our body shop is very highly automated. We actually have separate shops for Gravity and Air, right, to make sure that we can optimize for both processes. The Gravity body shop, for example, has like 280 robots.
How is all of this coordinated?
We actually use something that I call software-defined manufacturing. What that means is everything that we do here is simulated in the digital world, right? And so we do all of our optimization in that process before we put pen to paper and real hardware into the system. That means that we can continuously optimize the process.
So right behind me is the Gravity SUV coming off the line. Now, the company had some production challenges getting this thing out. The company delivered its first Gravity SUVs at the end of last year, but according to S&P Global Mobility data, it only had 9 registrations in the first half of 2025. The company refuted the low number, countering that actual deliveries were in the 3-digit range.
We are not where we need to be. Yeah? And we're actually right now ramping drastically in Q4. We'll see very different numbers. It was definitely a challenging year. It's a very small number of suppliers. We're not ready to ramp. In Q2, the magnet shortage came around, and then we had, unfortunately, the fire in an aluminum plant in upstate New York. And last but not least, then with Nexperia, the chip shortage topic, we're very confident right now that we solved those problems.
Managing the supply chain, that's always a big challenge for any automaker. And as a still relative startup automaker, what tends to happen is when there are challenges across the industry, supply chain disruptions, suppliers will tend to prioritize their highest volume customers. When you've got production capacity that is going underutilized, that's a lot of fixed costs that are associated with that, and you're going to end up losing a ton of money on those.
The company has managed to scale production overall, though. Lucid reported its best ever quarter in Q3 2025, delivering 4,078 vehicles. But it wouldn't tell CNBC how many of those were Gravity SUVs. What does the sort of Gravity versus Air kind of mix look like?
The first half year, we still had more Airs coming off the line, but you see most, if not all, of the vehicles that are coming off the line right now are actually Gravities. So that's going to be the majority of what we're building in the last quarter of the year.
The vehicles that are coming off the line right now, are these things already promised to customers?
We have a backlog, which is a very good thing. So all of the vehicles that are rolling off the line right now have a customer order attached to it.
If you were supply constraint and there was all this demand, why not share a data point? Like Ferrari shares that they have a waiting list for 2 years. So we know what the demand is. That's something that I would expect to be shared. My understanding is they don't know what the Gravity ultimate, demand is.
If they do start to get the volumes up, that will help. This is not an inexpensive vehicle. This is never something that's going to sell in the hundreds of thousands of units per year. And it's not until you start to get into those kinds of numbers that you can really start to build a viable business.
All right, so Lucid Gravity Grand Touring?
Grand Touring, exactly. Yeah.
Highest model, production model available.
That is our highest model right now, 828 horsepower, 0 to 60, I think 3.4 or faster.
450 mile range.
With the appropriate rims, it will have 450.
Starts at about $95,000.
That's the starting price. We just launched the Touring, which starts at 80,000. You know, very similar, less horsepower. You can actually choose the same features. Everything is available for the Touring as well.
How many of these do you think you can sell? I mean, realistically, like a $95,000 to $120,000.
The Grand Touring is not going to be the vast majority of our sales. We expect that the Touring model will have the majority.
Lucid is not yet profitable on its vehicles.
No, but that is because
Right.
we made all of the investments into
Sure.
buildings, into equipment and everything. The Gravity by itself is profitable.
There's a lot of competition. I mean, how do you distinguish yourselves?
You're right, obviously, particularly when you talk about luxury vehicles, to some extent always also about the brand. And that's something that we need to work on.
This does not feel like a big SUV at all, actually. It does feel car-like. You're pretty low to the ground.
Yep.
I can definitely feel that battery beneath me.
Our whole engineering team, that's what they were going for. Large SUV with lots of space inside that drives like a car or actually like a sports car.
Like Tesla with its Model 3 and Model Y, Lucid will need more affordable mass-market vehicles to truly grow the company. It has teased its next-generation platform, but little is known about its plans for its next cars.
We have planned 3 top hats on that platform. We have started to kind of show the first one. On average, we target a price range of around $50,000. And we think that with that platform, we will then, address a much bigger segment.
Lucid is putting a lot of their chips on the table regarding the midsize platform. Rivian is actually kind of doing the same thing. They're saying that their next generation platform is going to unlock a lot of potential, a lot of savings. Whether or not that comes to fruition, we'll have to wait and see.
The key for Lucid, as always, is execution. And this is where they have largely failed so far with the first 2 vehicles. If they can learn from the mistakes that they've made over the last 5 years and be able to quickly ramp up production and have a product that is going to be appealing to a mass audience.
How do you get to that, to ramping up that product, given where you are with the finances and everything?
We're still in the finalization of the development. You need to build the validation vehicles, you need to test it. We're still building our plant in Middle East, where we actually plan to build this vehicle. And also, we're outfitting this plant here as well to produce the vehicle here at end of next year, and so far we're on track.
The Atlas platform, which we are super excited about, our drive unit next generation platform, is designed to have lighter systems, simpler, more efficient. It's going to be a leap in efficiency and cost actually reduction.
An area of opportunity for Lucid could be international expansion. To date, the company hasn't expanded much beyond North America, but it is working to change that.
2 years ago, we started in Europe. We're also delivering already per our contract in Saudi Arabia, in Middle East. We're in the process to further expand internationally, in particular in Europe. We are active in 4 markets, and now we are adding next year additional 6 to 7.
The new factory in Saudi Arabia will eventually have the capacity to produce 155,000 vehicles per year. It is the nation's first ever car manufacturing facility.
Saudi Arabia, they've got a deal with the government to kind of provide vehicles there. They're also building a plant there that, as of right now, is really difficult to sell because given the amount of vehicles they're producing, do you really need a second plant?
We have a very strong backer with the PIF. We have a big number of vehicles that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia committed to buy from us. As part of that arrangement, including incentives, we agreed to build a plant down there. We are very confident it will serve us very well in the future.
The The company has also made moves to advance its autonomy efforts and enter the robotaxi race.
We actually just announced and started with our additional corporations entering the robotaxi space together with Uber and Nuro, but also our recent announcement with NVIDIA to really double down on autonomous driving functionality, because that's going forward, in my opinion, something that will have even more demand than it has today.
In July, Lucid announced it is teaming up with Uber and autonomous technology startup Nuro to make gravity SUV robotaxis. As part of the deal, Uber is investing $300 million into Lucid and plans to deploy 20,000 or more gravity robotaxis over 6 years.
We are providing the vehicle, but we're also integrating all the technology. The only thing that you then need to do is just load up the software from Nuro. And Uber is then deploying that vehicle on their platform. So for us, it's a validation of our technology and our capabilities.
I will say the investment from Uber was a great positive for the investors and giving kind of a third-party validation for Lucid.
They've got a customer for at least 20,000 of those vehicles. But what could help Lucid in the long run is if the technology works out, they could potentially expand their partnership with Nuro to take some of Nuro's technologies and apply it to Lucid customer vehicles.
Operating a car company is expensive, and Lucid has yet to reach profitability. In Q3 2025, it reported the cost of producing its vehicles was nearly twice the revenue generated from their sale. It took Tesla about 18 years before it reached its first full year of profitability.
It is losing money hand over fist. In the past 3 years alone, from 2022 to 2024, they've essentially lost $7 billion almost, and they're going to continue to lose money this year.
You're spending a lot of money, $955 million, I think, in the third quarter. How do you feel about your financial prospects?
It is a very capital-intensive business. You need to invest first, and then you reap the benefits later on. We have a very good support by a long-term investor, seeing the strategic intent of it, and also that it takes a long time to actually do it, but we're very confident that we are among the ones that are remaining.
Lucid's challenges are abundant, just like all the EV startups. I mean, the market has really fallen out. The end of the $7,500 tax credit for many of the consumers has impacted the companies, and there's just a lot more competition.
When you look at the landscape out there, there is a lot of government support for electric vehicles that has basically just been removed. Does this sort of change the calculus for you all?
It's clear, there is a demand that is going down right now in Q4 for the vehicles that were ordered before the expiration date. We're still honoring the 7,500, particularly with our Gravity. The demand is pretty strong still.
Unlike when Tesla rose to prominence, there's a lot more competition in the space.
Tesla built up an empire in EVs when no one was there. You can't be the next Tesla when there's so much competition.
The luxury segment is especially difficult to break into. It's a competitive space with several established players.
The buyer of a luxury brand, typically they like things like heritage. The brand matters. A lot of people don't know what Lucid is. That's the biggest, I think, hurdle that they have.
We started a new marketing approach with our first global brand ambassador, with Timothy Chalamet. So we're shifting from focusing on our vehicles, about the capabilities of our vehicles, to what does it mean to own a Lucid, and what does it say about you?
Without the Saudi government support, Lucid would be dead in the water.
They've been very patient through Lucid's struggles as they try to ramp up production and sales. It's unclear how long they will continue to be patient with Lucid.
Lucid does have money to keep it sustained for the near future. On its third quarter earnings, the company reported liquidity of $5.5 billion and $1.6 billion in cash.
You had said that you have basically enough runway to get through the first half of 2027?
That is correct. We will go back to the market when it's opportune for us. Right now we have cash. We also had a deferred term loan that we also increased from $750 to $2 billion. But it's just providing the safety net and the liquidity for us if we need to.
Adding to all these challenges, Lucid has also had to contend with a leadership shakeup. The company has seen a number of executive departures this year, with the biggest being Peter Rawlinson stepping down as CEO.
I've got a huge amount of respect for Peter Rawlinson. He's a really smart engineer. He was great as a technical leader. I'm not so sure that he was the right person to be the long-term CEO of the company.
Reflecting the ups and downs of its business is Lucid's volatile stock.
Company did a 10-to-1 reverse stock split, which propped up shares quite a bit, but investors have not had much to cheer about.
When will gross profit turn and start getting better? It got worse last quarter. Investors want to see evidence that gross profit improves, doesn't get worse.
Ultimately, Lucid's survival depends significantly on its ability to solve its production issues and scale to deliver a mass-market vehicle.
When we see the Q4 numbers, that'll really be what starts to tell the tale if Gravity is on track finally and they're making significant numbers of deliveries. Lucid's long-term survival, I think, really hinges on good execution on the midsize vehicle.
Where's the point at which you say, we're in good shape? We have gone from being a kind of startup to being something that is on its way to maturing or established.
We're not there yet, but with the expansion of the Gravity, our production, and then with the midsize coming online, that is the point where I think this is a sustainable business going forward. We have a clear plan to profitability. Nobody would be here if we wouldn't believe in it.